Let's Go Green, sponsored by EirGrid, managing and operating Ireland's electricity grid for a cleaner energy future. Check out airgrid.ie for more.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Let's Go Green here on Midlands 103. I'm your host, Aisling O'Rourke, and I'm back. My sincere thanks to Zoe Ryan, who stepped in for me while I took my first holiday in 2 years. So I hope you enjoyed her over the past couple of weeks. I know I really appreciated the time to rest, write and reflect. We have a cracker show lined up for you this week. A little bit later on, we're going to have some advice on how you can tackle that tech waste that I'm guessing is in a drawer in your house, if it's anything like mine. We'll also be talking about a programme for schools where we can teach young people about cleaning up after ourselves, because unfortunately, even in 2026, we still have a significant litter problem. But first things first, last week I had the opportunity to travel to Ballina in County Mayo to visit the Mary Robinson Climate and Nature Conference. And here are some of the people I had the opportunity to speak with.
Hiya, I'm Dr. Karen Bacon. I'm a lecturer at the University of Galway and I'm co-chair of this year's Mary Robinson Climate and Nature Conference.
Emma Donoghue, Project Manager of the Mary Robinson Centre and Events Coordinator for this year's Climate Conference.
Karen, talk to us first about the conference. You've been up and running now for 4 years. The events here now over the last couple of days have been absolutely fantastic. Why have an event like this in the first place?
So I am actually going to defer some of that to my colleague Emma. But from my perspective, it's been an absolute joy to be involved with this conference. And I do think it's extremely timely and extremely important. And the more that we can do to draw awareness to climate and nature, to reach out to communities like we've done here with the various exhibits, the farmers market, not least just having all the people at the conference, but it's raising awareness. And this year's theme being around food security, it's something that is so important and it does touch all of our lives, whether we realise it or not. And I think a lot of people don't realise it. So it's so important to start to have this conversation now while we can still think about what do we do to make sure that Ireland, everyone is food secure. So I just think it's timely, I think it's been a great meeting to be involved with. And I was very honoured to be asked to be involved. And it's been a great thing to be involved with.
Emma, between the Mary Robinson Centre, the conference, there's a great spirit of mettle here. The amount of volunteers that have donated of their time, it gives us hope to see events like this and to see people gathering together quite literally from across the island.
Yeah, absolutely. We really, on the onset from this year's conference, together, Karen and Laura and myself, I really decided we really wanted to interweave community as much as possible in with academia and science. And it was very important to us. And part of that is getting involved in all the communities. We, in the Mary Robinson Centre, we work quite a lot with all the different communities across the county. And we really like to bring them in and they then like to link in with other projects as well. So that in itself is a mahal. And then working together with the council. And this year is the first time we have a co-chair from Mayo County Council. But Karen, it's a lovely symmetry and it's lovely weaving in of everybody. And it's the way I feel that things should be. Us as Irish people, that's part of our culture and that was lost for a while. So I think it's really good to just reignite that in everybody. And people seem to really, that really resonates with a lot of people. And it's evident when you see the amount of volunteers that we have and attendees here as well.
The amount of women I've spoken to over the past 2 days who remember Mary Robinson's inauguration, who have followed careers, myself included, because we were inspired by her as a child and have followed her since, to work in a way, in this way, and to have this kind of an impact in the community, and now to have the centre to honour Mary. It must be inspiring in your own day-to-day work.
It is. Sometimes I have to pinch myself to realise I work with Mary on a regular basis. And we've become good friends through this. And it's something when I was a child and seeing Mary get elected, I think I was 10. And I was just in awe of her, seeing her as a woman myself from Mayo and seeing this woman from Mayo. I thought she was amazing. And now to see that we're getting to do this and we're getting to work together with her to making all these differences. And within the centres, we really it's not about Mary, it's because of Mary. And we work under the things that she has advocated for. So we have 4 pillars and you've probably seen our logo. So the 4 pillars are human rights, humanitarian, climate change and biodiversity. And that's what we work for. That's what Mary advocates for. And that's what we fight for as well on a community level. And to be able to link in with amazing universities like Galway University and Mayo County Council, and even through the Curlew Awards, we have Atlantic Technical University coming in there as well. And so many different community groups and so many this climate event, farmers, community groups, academics, scientists. It's so powerful. And I think that's what's going to make the difference and change. And that's something that Mary is full for. And it's brilliant that we get to that by her side.
Karen, on that, there was a comment from one of the speakers this morning about grain silos and how we've gotten used to operating in our own silos, but for climate change, for us to do anything about it, it's just not appropriate to stay in silos. And it's lovely to see ATU and University of Galway working together, because we don't often see that at the academic level. Oftentimes people are competing against each other for funding rounds, whatever it might be. So is there longevity in that piece, do you think?
I think so. And I think to some extent, yes, there is competition between the different universities. And some of it's healthy. You strive more when you have that healthy competition. But I think academia is actually far more collaborative than people realise. And I work with colleagues all over the country and in the UK and around the world. And certainly from my perspective, everything in science, and I'm a plant ecologist, it has to be collaborative. There's no point in just being, oh, I'm doing this thing. It's like, no, we are doing this thing. We have partnerships and we work together. We raise each other up, and we have far more success with that methodology than with trying to be the big dog or whatever. It's like, I enjoy working with people, and I enjoy working with people across, not just in science. I love to work with people outside of science, because you're much more challenged then. You have to think in different ways. You have to think fast. And that to me is brilliant, to try and work outside of academia, working more with our students as well, not just dictating to them, telling them how things are. It's like, we've got brilliant students. We had some of them here yesterday. They were presenting posters in the centre and for the Curlew Awards. And it has to be collaborative. There is no point in knowledge that isn't shared. And to me, that is the kind of the heart and soul of science and of academia. It's like, we work together, we learn more, and we better ourselves through that knowledge.
Duncan Stewart, you are possibly one of the most well-known environmentalists on the island. Many of us grew up watching you. We've heard over the last couple of days the scale of the climate change problem, but we've also heard the significant amount of efforts that are taking place across the country. How do we get people to embody this spirit of Mehel that we've been discussing, to actually get working together on these issues? Because I think a lot of people feel they're working in isolation, or no one's doing anything, so why should I bother getting involved?
Absolutely. You're asking a very basic question, a very important question. And in a way, you are very aware of the issue. And yes, if we take Ireland and rural Ireland, and if you like, all towns in rural Ireland, coming together is critical. And the Mehel system was there. Now, the Mehel system came out of a need of the time. People needed each other to harvest their crops or to build their houses at the time. So the Mehel was an essential thing, because it brought in other skills that everybody doesn't have all skills. So I think we have to create a situation where people realise the urgency of climate change, and we need to see what we can do to mitigate this, and what are the actions that we collectively can do, because we can do very little as individuals. So many people are now feeling climate anxious. Climate anxiety is a huge problem with children, wondering about their future. Will there be a future? An example would be here. I came on my bicycle here into following the Moy River into Ballina, and I would have done a programme on the Moy years ago. But the Moy River now, according to the fishermen I've spoken to on the banks of the river fishing, is 4 degrees higher than it should be. Climate change related. So all of our rivers are doing this, but the problem is that this is a critically important river for salmon, and the salmon are stressed. The fishermen are finding them stressed. When they catch the fish and they release them, a lot of the fish are dying. So this is a problem with all our ecosystems. Anyway, I'm gone off on a tangent here.
No, you're okay. But it's very important. And I think you talked about climate anxiety, but people are also in a cost of living crisis. People are very frightened about their electricity bills or their heating bills in the winter. How do we get more people involved without lecturing them? You spent a lot of your career has been in media, has been speaking with people on the ground. So what do we need to do in terms of communicating these difficulties to people without, just to be honest, rounding them off so that they don't want to do anything at all?
No, absolutely. Very relevant. To engage people, we have to obviously inform them of what the issues are correctly, based on fact, based on science, and to understand, to make the connection with their future. Ask them basic questions like, what is this going to be like in the future if we don't act now? And that means collective action, going back to your first question. So for me, the reality is if we sit by and do nothing, things are going to collapse. That's clear. It's coming down the track very fast. And we're going to face big shocks. And we see it even from the oil crisis, protests on roads. Now, this idea of putting big tractors on the roads to block the roads so that the carbon tax is taken off is not a solution. It's doing massive damage. What we have to do is change the model. The model is wrong. Importing oil, we have to stop doing it. 85% of our energy is imported. We're very much at risk of energy insecurity alongside the impacts of our greenhouse gas emissions. So we have to change, we have to transform, and it is through collective action.
Alice Doyle, Deputy President of the Irish Farmers Association.
Alice, you're here at the Mary Robinson Climate Change Conference in Balmain, County Mayo. Farmers and climate change, it can be a very contentious conversation. And I suppose from the outside perspective, there's a perception that we're not changing our practices quickly enough to meet all of these 2030, 2050 targets. But talk to me about the changes that are being made.
Very true that a lot of people don't understand that the changes are being made. And maybe we don't explain it maybe enough as well, but it's not maybe always obvious. But changes are taking place. And I think what has to be understood more importantly is that changes are taking place at a rate that will leave it, that we will have a just society, we will have economically viable farmers, that we will have be sustainable, they will be, and the farms will be environmentally sustainable, and that rural communities will be sustainable. And in order to retain those three elements, we have to look at how it's happening, and it's going to happen at a slower pace than people would like it to happen. There is no magic electric light switch that we can turn on and off here and say we can change things rapidly. So what has been happening? If we look at the sector over the last number of years, around water quality, we have worked extremely hard under the water programmes. We've worked with other groups like Teagasc, we've worked with farming organisations, we work with the Department of Agriculture, we work with European bodies under EIPs to improve that. You come to animal production, and again we look at how our animals are farmed. We have the improvement around animal welfare, whether it's either poultry, pigs, sheep, dairy, everything. The whole standard now of how we look after our animals has improved greatly. How are we reducing some of the emissions, say, from an animal point of view? There are certain additives that can be added to feed that are well and truly tested and tried to make sure that they're safe for humans as the result of eating the meat afterwards or drinking the milk. That's being fed, and that is showing good improvement. We look at our land use and how we're using our land. We can see the huge improvement in vegetation. We have riparian areas that are protected now. We have certain how soil is being treated. We're looking at the types of fertilizer that were being used, reducing emissions as well. And then we can look at the whole overall picture of how is farming adapting to this. The farmers are buying into it, and they are doing their utmost to do it, and they're doing it a lot of it at their own cost.
Molly, you spoke today at the Mary Robinson Climate Conference, and you spoke about the importance of community and getting neighbourhoods involved. It's perhaps something we've forgotten, and we have to relearn how to do that. So tell me about your organisation and the work that you do.
Brilliant. Yes. So Neighbourhood Network is a social enterprise dedicated to...
You're all right. Take your time.
Neighbourhood Network is an organisation dedicated to reducing loneliness and increasing neighbourliness. And I run a project that's focused on community food spaces. It's called Our Shared Plate, and we operate mostly in the Midlands, would you believe, in Longford, Laois, a little bit in Offaly, and in County Kildare. I also happen to be the co-chair of Community Gardens Ireland, so that's the representative body for all community growing in the country. And today I spoke about the gaps in our knowledge about community growing, but also the Irish food system as a whole, and how we have to fill those gaps in order to anticipate any food shortages in the near or middle future.
Now, all of that, say the community gardens, the neighbourhood work that you do, like we hear a lot in the media about loneliness and a loneliness epidemic, and there's so much fear when it comes to climate change. So what role can the likes of your organisations, plural, do to help us bring those two things together and get us more thinking more about the metal nowadays than the concept that we may have forgotten?
Brilliant, great question. These days it can feel more and more like we've less and less in common, and the media has a role to play in that, and it often feels like agriculture, climate, nature, or any, just you don't know your neighbours. But we all eat, we all have grown at some point. If not us, then definitely our parents or our grandparents. So we're really interested in creating spaces that are just, it's a table for everybody to sit at, and no matter what you believe in, no matter your identity, no matter any other thing, you can break bread with each other and you can see that you're each human and you have that in common.
Today, it's been interesting to see there's predominantly women at the conference over the last 2 days, but there's a great mix of genders or of generations. How important is that maybe as the younger members of the movement to tackle climate change, that we learn from our elders and those who have maybe memories of doing things slightly differently?
Yeah. So we actually don't know how many community growing spaces there are in Ireland. We estimate there's 2,500, and that's about 25,000 people that are actively growing food outside of their everyday profession. What we call this would be like the food literacy knowledge bank. It's really important. It's wild that we have to even be thinking about it because, to your point, it was only a generation ago where growing your own food was not only a hobby, but it was a necessity. It was mentioned earlier today that in some instances in Dingle, for example, it was actually the Ukrainian visitors that helped the community garden there to understand how to grow food and how to preserve that food. It's basic knowledge that's going to help us get through the next few years, and it can be a really good use of time to anybody who's entering into retirement or in active retirement to be able to pass on that knowledge.
And my thanks to everybody who took time out of the Mary Robinson Climate and Nature Conference to speak with me over the last couple of days in Ballina in County Mayo. We'll be back after the break.
Let's Go Green, sponsored by EirGrid, managing and operating Ireland's electricity grid for a cleaner energy future. Check out airgrid.ie for more.
Listening to Let's Go Green here on Midlands 103. Now, if you've been listening to this show for a while, you'll know that I'm very passionate about getting children and young people involved in environmental issues because, you know, once you get into these habits and this knowledge base as a child, it's so much easier to keep it all going in adulthood and to really get more involved as an adult if you start from an early age. Well, to talk about a programme that's been running quite successfully in schools and will be again in the new year, I'm joined now by Gary Jones of Voice Ireland. Gary, you are very welcome to the programme.
Thanks, Aisling. I'm delighted to be here.
Now, Gary, I know the schools are all on holidays and we're thoroughly enjoying our summer holidays, but Picker Pals is a programme from Voice Ireland that runs in schools and really does help to spread that passion for environmental issues amongst youngsters. So what exactly is the programme?
Yeah, sure. So I'll give you a quick summary. So Picker Pals, in short, it's an environmental action programme for primary school children in and around first and second class or special classes. Each class that's taken part with us gets one of our special kits called a picker pack. And then each weekend, that kit is sent home with a different child from the class who's given the job to lead their family on litter picks in their own neighbourhood. The idea being that it's going to turn the environment into something they feel ownership over and care about, rather than just something that they're reading in a textbook in school. So the programme is very easy for teachers to run. As we said, the pack is sent home with a child on a rotating basis for the school year. So while those children are patiently waiting their turn with the pack, they get a weekly update from their classmates who had the pack before them. So they get very used to hearing about litter and finding out and learning where the litter black spots are in their own local area, and finding out what events are more likely to lead to litter. Like maybe it's the local football pitches, maybe it's behind the local shop. So they get a good sense of what's going on in the neighbourhood. Then each month on top of that, we send a themed lesson to the classes. And I actually appear on screens in the schools all around Ireland and teach that lesson. I was a teacher for a long time before doing this job. Our lessons, they cover loads of useful topics like recycling, biodiversity, plastic, circular economy, SDGs. And the children then get a chance to chat to us on the calls about their adventures. They also get to see all the other children that are part of the programme too. So like you mentioned, we are quite successful. Last year we had 1,500 classrooms taking part all across Ireland. And then I suppose to sum it all up, it adds up to us hopefully creating a generation of young people who are less likely to throw litter and who are more likely to feel like they can make a positive difference to the environment.
And I know, there's tidy towns organisations that listen to this programme right around the country. And I know for them, they go out and they do this work day in, day out, and they clean up the streets and they pick litter. But it is frustrating. So to get children doing this, to learn about the importance of it, in the hopes that they won't be litterers themselves, I take it that they'll continue this practice on. So I think that's wonderful. And I do have my goddaughter's going into second class in September. So I'd love her to be doing this because it is so important. And what's the experience of youngsters? Because I have a feeling like no one is so blunt as a 7-year-old. So what's been the feedback you've received from the youngsters on it?
That's a lovely way to frame it. Yeah. In short, the kids love it. They love getting their opportunity with the pack. I don't know. There's a delayed gratification part to the program as well. Like I mentioned, that pack gets given to just one child per week in the class, and that's it's very intentional. We could have designed it that 30 litter pickers went out and every child went, all in one go, big bam. But because we do it week by week by week, the children realize that this is an ongoing program that needs to happen. The litter keeps coming back, and that's the one thing that we always find out from them. They'll say where they went, and then I'll say, okay, and I thought someone else from your class was only there a couple of weeks ago. Was the litter back so soon? And they get really offended on behalf of their local area. No, they really do love it. They love being the boss. It's very rare for a first or a second class age child to have that title. Now I know probably every parent listening will say, oh, no, my first or second class job is the boss in the house.
Absolutely.
But we give them the title. I say it to them. I said, "You're the boss." And I suppose in the modern world we have today of social media and influencers, I tell you that there's probably no better influencer than a really enthusiastic child who is telling their parents, stuff that maybe the parents haven't had a chance to think about before, because they're mini environmentalists is what we're looking to create. So the children go home, they start coaching their parents on recycling or pointing out, litter on the path that the parents mightn't have noticed, or even just getting the family to start thinking about what they use, what they throw away. It all comes together in one package of these mini environmentalists, and they love it.
And a lot of families, because of the way, a lot of families would be already involved in doing this kind of work. So is there extra work? I suppose parents listening to this might think, do you know what, this is brilliant, but I'm really busy, I'm under pressure. How much extra work is involved for parents on their side of things?
Yeah, no, that is a good question, to be fair. And one of the things that we've been, not accused is too strong a word. It has been pointed out that our main fuel for keeping the programme running is pester power. We run on pester power. But you're right, families are very busy. So when we go to a school, the school says, oh, great, we'll have picker pals. But a letter is sent home to the families at the beginning of the year to say, this is what the class is going to be participating in. Would you be willing, first of all, to participate in it? And if a family says, we don't have the time, it's kept very quiet. There's no pressure putting families to take part, which is that. But then if the child does want to have a go with the pack and it's not going to be brought home, the schools are free to run the programme in whatever way they like, which can also mean then that certain children might be put on duty of picking up litter around the school grounds with another child from the class. So it's very creative and very flexible how we do it. It's one of the main selling points for the programme, apart from the fact that it's free, which is taster for later on, but is that it's as flexible as schools want it to be. So there's no onerous record keeping that the schools have to give us at the end of the year, which means then that also goes down the line, meaning that there's less pressure on the parents themselves. But in general, after 6 full years of the programme, I can't actually remember. I could count on less than one hand the amount of critical feedback questions that we've had. from families. It's generally a lovely experience, and everybody has a great time doing it because the families get to go out together and have a job together. It's very fun. The child, like I said, is the boss. They're out in their community. They're seen. They're doing things. Particularly special schools. We're quite popular in special schools, and a lot of the feedback we've had from the teachers and the families of the children in special schools is that it could be one of the first times that they, as a family, get to go out and contribute and be part of the community and be seen being active, because in the busy, dangerous world of busy roads and traffic, the idea of having a child with additional needs and safety concerns out is also a thing that many programs aren't flexible enough to accommodate, but Pick Your Pals works really well on that too. So it's really a positive story around families.
Now, of course, as I did say, we are on summer holidays from schools. The students aren't in class right now, but this is a time of year when school management sit back and plan and think about available resources. So if we have maybe a principal or a teacher tuned in to this programme, how does a school become involved in Pick Your Pals?
Yeah. First, I'll apologise for talking about back to school in July. I know from my years in school that I'd keep my eyes closed for the first few weeks of the holidays. But no, you're right. This is the time to get in. It's great, actually, if schools were to register early, because it means they'll be in our first batch of packs we send out in September. It's very easy to register. We have an online form. It takes 2 minutes to fill out once you know the roll number of your school. The easiest way to go and find it is to type Pick Your Pals into Google. We have 2 different types of websites. We've one for Ireland and there's an international Pick Your Pals one. But regardless of which one you land on, there's a form that says sign up in Ireland. So go to Google, put in Pick Your Pals, and then find your way through the website to registration for 2026-27. It's fully free. It's so like there's zero cost to schools, and that's the equipment. That's a year's worth of online lessons with me. We're very fortunate that the Department of the Environment have funded us through the Circular Economy Fund, and then 30 out of 31 local authorities in Ireland have funded us. And we also have some support from some corporate sponsors as well. So it's absolutely free for schools.
So this is the time to get going. You had 1,500 schools in the last academic year. You've been up and running for 6 years. Have you a goal for 26-27 as to getting more people involved?
Yeah, maybe not more people involved. I suppose as we've gotten more established and mature as a programme, we're at 83% of all primary schools in the country have had us at some point. So we're still trying to hunt down that additional 17%. Definitely we are, but we're going more for depth of engagement. So each year we've been trying to build on our curriculum. So we've got 12 different lessons that I referenced earlier on. We tried to make them better and make the engagement levels go higher. So we could keep our same numbers last year, 1,500, chip away at the other 17% of schools that haven't been in. So actually, we'd be really happy if we got to 90% of schools had taken part at some point. So we are chatting to people, which I'm very grateful that you've given me the platform to talk to you today. We're on radio, we're on our emails, we're on social media. And we actually then found one of the most effective things is I'm going to start calling schools as well and catching principals when they have a quiet moment. And I'll call the schools that have never taken part before because maybe they've somehow missed our messaging. It's very rare that a school would be offered the programme and not take it because it's so easy, it's free, it's enjoyable, it's loved.
It's like any job. You get in so many emails and so much messaging that sometimes something really valuable can easily be missed just because of the sheer volume of messaging that you're receiving.
Oh, absolutely. And it's very rare that a programme would become fully funded and free without any onerous paperwork. There's always, like I've talked to principals often on the phone or secretaries. Secretaries are fabulous, like to keep the schools running, and they're charged with being the gatekeepers of what information can pass into the school. And you have to tell secretaries a couple of times, no, it's free. I'm telling you, you don't have to pay for it. I'm telling you, it's great. And we do the work. We send you the equipment. We do the lessons. All the teachers have to do is, go with the flow. And that's the message we want to get out there. And we have our mini environmentalist children then as a result.
Fabulous. So if you are a first or second class teacher come this September, if you are a primary school principal, a primary school secretary, or even the parent of a child that's going to be going into first or second class in September, make sure and encourage your school to get involved in Pick Your Pals. Just Google it. You're looking for Pick Your Pals with Voice Ireland. Gary Jones, thank you so much for checking in with us, and perhaps we'll get you back mid-year to see how it's all going.
Oh yeah, for a big update. Yeah. One last thing I might add, we do all the lessons in Irish as well. So we're in the Gael school as well. Just that's the thing that we do. So we're in both.
That is wonderful. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining us here on Let's Go Green, Gary. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Thanks.
We'll be back after the break.
Let's Go Green, sponsored by EirGrid, managing and operating Ireland's electricity grid for a cleaner energy future. Check out airgrid.ie for more.
Listening to Let's Go Green here on Midlands 103. Well, our next segment is for, well, if you're a techie or if you like your devices, particularly if you like getting the latest devices and might be hoarding some older ones at home, this item is definitely for you. I'm delighted to be joined by Louisa Souza of Swappy. Louisa, you are very welcome to Let's Go Green.
Thank you so much, Ashlyn, and great to be here. Excited to talk a little bit more about Swappy, what we do, and how it's going in Ireland.
Now, Louisa, I think a lot of us fall into the trap of getting the latest device. We want the shiny new phone, the new laptop. And I'm sure I'm not alone in that many of us have older devices sitting in a drawer at home, or maybe it's the bundle of cables that we think we should hold on to, but we're not quite sure why we're holding on to them. Electronic waste is a huge issue across Europe, isn't it?
Yeah. So actually, we see that in Europe alone, more than 51% of Europeans keep their old tech or smartphones at home. So we're not alone in this. And in Ireland, actually, that number is even higher. So for some reason, the Irish like to hoard their tech at home. But I think not thinking about the waste itself, which it is, and I think consumers are aware of it, I think the biggest thing is that they don't know their tech still has value and can be given a second life. So the tech you have at home may not suit you right now, but it could suit someone else. And that's what we do at Swappy. We would buy your device, then give it a second life, refurbish it, and sell it to someone who would then want that tech that you're not suited to anymore. So that's simple.
And I think, and I know myself as well, it would be a concern. It's the effort involved. So I've bought my new device because the older one I no longer needed, or it's not up to par anymore. But what do I do with the old device? What if someone gets access to my data? People have a lot of concerns around their tech, and I think maybe it's easier to put it in a corner. And I'll deal with that later, but later never comes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a super important point. I think the data erasure, or making sure that that's clean and that the company whom you're selling your tech does not have access to that. And that's something we guarantee 100%. And then it also goes through our refurbishment process of like 52 steps before we then again give the device a second life. So I understand that the process itself seems intimidating from the get-go and also very time consuming. I remember how I actually found out about Swappy was because I broke my phone and used my new one. And my reaction, well, let's just buy a new one. And the old one is broken, so it's just keeping in my drawer. But I think with us, we offer a really simplified step-by-step process where you would go into our website, kind of select the device that you have and go through the different characteristics of what kind of state the device is in. And then it would give you a quote. And with that, you could either choose, we send you a package with a prepaid shipping label where it's already like a secure package where you can put your phone in and then send it to us. We can either pick it up from your home or you can drop it off at one of the pickup points. And it's relatively easy in that sense. So I think we try to make the process as simple as possible, but then ensuring as well that consumers find it safe. So ensuring that all their data is erased, which it is, and then that the refurbishment process, as I mentioned, it goes through that 52 step. And whatever we can't save, we then obviously recycle. So nothing goes to waste in the process, which I think is very important from a sustainability aspect. And even if you're not looking to upgrade your phone, just selling, I think it's very important to do so from from the sustainability point of view.
And on that, because all of these devices, they are made from minerals that are difficult to access in the earth. They all have these vital components that, that we don't have an infinite amount of. We need to be responsible with. So how big of a problem is the waste and electronic waste and device hoarding when it comes to the environmental side of things?
Well, in specific numbers, I cannot tell you in the top of my head, but I know the waste is very big, like in Europe, in Ireland, and definitely something that we should be aware of as a consumer. And you mentioned here the minerals and, how it actually goes to production of a new phone. And we know, or maybe not everyone is aware, but there's a big chip shortage around the world. Also, technology has become more modern. There's more need for different chips or data centers, whatnot, AI, everything. So actually, we are producing more and technology keeps getting more high tech. So in a sense, we are producing more, but we're also making devices circulate for longer, having a longer device life. So there is really no need for this constant upgrading, but more lengthening the life of the device that you have. And that's what we try to do, is by giving it a second life, making sure that, less electronic waste is happening, and making the consumer aware. And I think we've done a pretty good job, and obviously there's a lot to be done still.
But I think as well, there is that, I think a lot of people, particularly when it comes to mobile phones, what we forget is, and maybe it's the older generation, I think young people maybe have already cottoned on to this, but we get ourselves locked into contracts that includes the new phone, and we forget that we don't need to do that we can actually buy the phone separately or buy the device separately. If we use a refurbished phone, maybe sell an older device, long term we're saving ourselves money as well as doing something positive for the environment.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think we see a trend of people not buying the most recent phone. So actually not choosing the most recent, because the functionality sometimes is the same. Obviously, every phone has a different need. We also don't only sell phones. I don't know if I mentioned, but we also sell AirPods, iPads. So we're going into more of kind of tech sphere rather than just smartphones. But smartphones was our core. But yeah, definitely agree with you on that.
So then talk to me about how it works. So if, for instance, I moved house recently and I have a box of electronic waste, you might as well call it what it is, that I know I need to organise over the course of this summer. So if we were to go and maybe we find an old phone or an old iPad at home and we decide, you know what, I don't need it. I might not even need a new device, but I could send it on to somebody else. How does it work?
Yeah, so it's very, very simple. I think you could do it in two ways. One, you could just sell it. So we call it the C2B, or consumer to business. So you would go into our website, select the device you have at home, and it would go through kind of a few steps where we would look at the device, like from what you tell us, like how the state of the device, and mostly this would be the physical appearance of the device. And then after that, we give you a quote. So we say, for example, you can get up to, so right now, the most expensive model, you can get up to 1,420 euros in Ireland. But of course, this depends on what model you have and the state of the model. This is assuming it's in perfect condition. And then after you go through this process, it gives you the figure, which is locked in for 2 weeks. And then you agree if you want to sell it or not. And we would then send you the instructions to send it to us. Once the device is sent to us, so either you can get a shipping, we call it a sales pack, but a shipping package with the label, or if you just want the label and kind of arrange the packing yourself, everything is free. We then pick up the device, or you send it to us And once it arrives in our facilities, we run our 52-step refurbishment inspection as well. We inspect the device, see if it matches what the value and the questions and everything that was mentioned. And then the quote is either the same or higher or lower, depending on how it was evaluated and the state. And then we would inform the customer, and then the customer can either then agree, yes, I do want to sell it at that price. If so, we then transfer the money to the customer, all while, of course, erasing all the data of the device. And then it goes into the refurbishment process or recycling. That's if you just want to sell your phone. If you want to kind of upgrade, we call it trade-in. So let's say, Aisling, you have, I don't know, the iPhone 14, you want to upgrade to the iPhone 15, you want to sell back your old device. It's working fine, but it doesn't suit you anymore. You can go through the trade-in. So directly when you try to, or when you go buying an iPhone, then you can click the trade-in. It goes through the same process, and then the value that you will buy the new phone for minus the trade-in value.
Ah, I see. So you don't have to, there's no gap. You're not left without a device, for instance, or you don't have to buy one and sell one and then buy the other. It's all, you can do it as part of a process.
Yes, exactly. Well, ideally, yeah, you can do the process. You do the buy, the phone arrives, then when the phone arrives, usually it can come with a sales pack, and then you send your old phone.
Okay.
And like that, you don't have those days without a phone.
And on refurbished devices, one of the concerns that people might have, and I think specifically maybe with phones, because they're the device that, well, we get the much hardest use out of them. We're probably not kind. They get dropped. We're on them all day, every day. The battery life tends to be the time when you think, God, that battery now, it's not as good as it used to be. And getting to the point, the end, in my mind, it might be the end of life of this particular device. How do I suppose, if I'm selling that on to Swappy or a company like Swappy and I'm buying a refurbished device, do I still have that issue? Because I think that might be a concern for people. If I'm getting essentially a second-hand device, is the battery going to be just as good? Will it last as long?
Yeah, so we have two scenarios. I would say always when the phone goes through the refurbishment process, if we see that the battery does not need replacement and is at a minimum capacity, we say 86%, then that's kind of our standard. Then it ensures all the performance and the battery is fully tested. So we guarantee that, it has a lifelong battery life. If you want to ensure you get a new battery, we offer an add-on called, you can purchase a premium battery. So we would then ensure that this is replaced and have 100% battery capacity. And obviously it's professionally installed and tested by our technicians and reliable for like new performance. So there are these two aspects. So depending on the consumer, there are some consumers who are okay with the standard battery and some who prefer the premium option. I think what's good in the way we do business is that I think we have a choice for every type of consumer, also like the battery, but also the condition of the phone comes in 4 different conditions. So really catered to whatever the customer is looking for. But then we also have a 12-month warranty, right? So if there is anything wrong with the device, then of course this can be sent back to warranty. And we have a great customer service team who is very keen on making the customer happy, of course. And this business is based on trust. So we also need the customers to trust us, trust the process. And it is not the same as a used phone. So that really needs to be emphasized. So that's why it's a refurbished phone. It goes through the process. It is tested. It is, so we ensure the minimum standards of quality to make sure that the phone comes in the state the customer bought it in.
And look, at the end of the day, going through the drawer, getting out those old devices, making sure they get another life. it is the environmentally friendly, it's the sustainable way to do things. And it also, you know, might earn you a few extra euro towards maybe a summer's day out or a summer holiday, maybe if you're really lucky, if you have a higher end device. But Louisa Souza of Swappy, thank you so much for joining us here on Let's Go Green and talking us through how we can be more sustainable when it comes to dealing with tech waste and maybe when we are looking for that new device.
Definitely. And thank you for having me. And I hope I was able to enlighten a little bit about our process. And thank you again for having me. It was a great chat.
Thank you very much for your time. We'll be back after the break.
Let's Go Green, sponsored by EirGrid, managing and operating Ireland's electricity grid for a cleaner energy future. Check out airgrid.ie for more.
You're listening to Let's Go Green here on Midlands 103. Now, have you been considering getting solar panels at home? Well, a solar PV mehel is being launched in Tullamore, and the idea is to basically help householders to save energy costs. There's going to be a meeting taking place next week, Wednesday, the 22nd of July at 7:30 in the Tullamore Court Hotel. The event will outline the solar PV mehel process, explain how collective purchasing can maximise savings alongside, of course, the grants from the SEAI, and it will provide opportunities to engage directly with representatives from Team Tullamore, SEC and Offaly County Council. So this is a new solar PV mehel which is being established in Tullamore in County Offaly. The meeting to discuss this is taking place Wednesday of next week, July 22nd at 7:30 p.m. in the Tullamore Court Hotel. I'm going to try and pop along to it myself if I can, but it's definitely something worth checking out if you're looking at getting solar panels at home and doing it in a cost-efficient way. And I just want to remind you that if you would like to get involved at a school level in the Picker Pals programme from Voice Ireland, or indeed if you're a parent of a child that is heading into first or second class and you would like them to learn more about the environment and cleaning up after ourselves and picking litter, go on to voiceireland.org and search for Picker Pals, or even if you just Google Picker Pals Ireland, the website will come up for you there with all of the information, as Gary Jones from Voice Ireland was explaining with us earlier on. And of course, Louisa from Swappy was our other guest today. I know I have to go through my own tech waste. I think it's probably more than a drawer at this stage that needs to be sorted out over the coming weeks and months. And once again, a sincere thank you to all the organisers at the Mary Robinson Climate and Nature Conference. It was my first event, first time attending the event, and I have to say I came away absolutely buzzing with motivation and ideas, and it was really a really worthwhile couple of days. It also was lovely to get back to Mayo. I hadn't been in quite some time. But it was a really excellent event, and it was fabulous to meet people from across the island, all working in different areas, tackling climate issues or working to support environmental issues. So it was very positive, and I really did enjoy it. And if it's something that you're interested in, I'd encourage you to keep an eye out on the Mary Robinson Centre's websites when they launch the dates for the 2027 event. Of course, if you missed any of this week's episode of Let's Go Green, you can listen back to all of the shows that are on our podcast page on Midlands 103, or of course previous episodes that are on Spotify and Apple. Just search for Let's Go Green with Aisling O'Rourke and you will find every single episode of Let's Go Green since 2022 there for you to tune into. And if there's something that you would like us to feature here in the show, please do get in contact with me. Drop me an email to hello@thecommunicationscoach.ie. I'm afraid I'm right out of time for this week, so I'm going to have to leave it there. But thank you very much for listening, and I'll be back same time next week with another edition of Let's Go Green here on Midlands 103.
Let's Go Green, sponsored by EirGrid, managing and operating Ireland's electricity grid for a cleaner energy future. Check out airgrid.ie for more.